Bandai just dropped the full set list for PRB02. In this video, we're going to be going over everything that is in the set, as well as some cards that are not in the set. Now, first things first, all of the alt arts are not yet leaked, so we will not be covering alt arts in this video, just the base arts of the cards. And we'll be going set by set, starting with, of course, EBO1. So EBO1 has had some of the most important cards reprinted. Cavendish, you see this card in every green deck pretty much. Laboon, who's somewhat popular in both Lucci and sometimes in Blackbeard. Fingergun from Blackbeard, Brook from Lucci, Mr. 2 from every purple deck you can think of. Pretty much. And another couple cards like Shirahoshi. There are also some weird reprints like Yamasan. There's a weird fascination with the vanilla reprints in this set. I don't quite get it, but most of these, really, really good. But what did they whiff on? Well, here's probably the two biggest cards they've whiffed on. Hidden Killer, not very popular at the moment in the West, but with Rayleigh coming out, Hidden Killer is pretty stable, at least 2 copies in Rayleigh, and has a price tag of around $5 or £2. And this Chopper, this might be the biggest whiff of the entire set, to be honest. This guy, really good in Zorro, really good in Animal Marco, any other Animal Engine deck, currently sitting just under $20 and just under £10. So to not see a reprint of this is somewhat surprising when you saw a reprint of Yamasan, but hey, I guess they ran out of slots for SRs. Next up, moving on to EBO2, and there is one EBO2 card in this set, Mr. Luffy. This sort of really makes me feel like this was an emergency reprint. They released this set when, oh shit, we screwed up on the drop rates of this card. Put it in PRB. Because there are no other EBO2 cards in this set, which is just kind of mad, you know? Not that any of the other EBO2 SRs particularly needed a reprint right now, but for there to be literally zero other than this guy, I think this was an emergency reprint situation. But hey, I'm absolutely here for it. And moving back now to OPO1, there's only 2 set 1 cards in this set. We have the Killer Blocker, who you sometimes see in Supernova decks like Bonnie, and you can be the Samurai, who is not all that popular, but you do see crop up now and again. Both these cards, totally fair reprint, if they needed to fill some of these common and uncommon slots. And there's actually nothing really in set 1 that I think desperately needed a reprint. Most of the big hitters, they got the first time around in PRB01, and these cards are only going to be with us till April anyway. Set 2, again, just 2 cards. We've got a reprint of Dadan, which is fine, because they're sort of printing a bunch more of these, like, Goa Kingdom Mountain Bandit type cards in OP13, it seems. So a Dadan reprint's kind of cool. And a Gum Gum Rain, they've reprinted all of the zero costs. Yes, that's confirmation. All of the zero costs are reprinted. So Gum Gum Rain is indeed one of those. Although probably the least expensive zero cost. And again, from OPO2, I really don't think there are any meta-relevant cards that commanded a high enough price to need a reprint. Moving on to set 3, and we do have most of the big hitters. We've got Nojiko, very popular in Blue Yellow Nami. A couple of zero costs. Buggy from your Rayleigh decks, and Kaya, who's a fairly staple blue 2k. Not in all blue decks, but in a fair few. And there was one card that I was somewhat surprised not to see a reprint. Tenkos Linlin, not the most meta card at all, but is still pretty popular in Pudding, which is more of like a rogue option. This commands a fairly steep price as well, especially for how popular it is, like £6 or $7. I was a little surprised this was quite so expensive, but definitely not the biggest deal that this didn't get a reprint, but, you know, hey, it could have done at this price. Moving on to set 4, we've got a few cards. We've got Sabo, Idio, and Corridor Coliseum from the Dressrosa package. Sabo used to be extremely popular back in Lucci and Black Yellow Luffy back in the day. Doesn't see as much play anymore. Sometimes like a 1 or 2 of in your black decks. Just a decent blocker. Batman's Kick Course, another one of those zero costs. Like I say, they've reprinted all of them. And some of them, such as Bad Manners, are better than others. There was also nothing in set 4 that I really think needed a reprint outside of, perhaps Bad Manners and the Sabo. I don't think Idio and Corridor either really needed one, but they got one regardless. Next up, OPO5, and we've got a few more cards from this set. Got the Ivankov and the Stage, both pretty popular in Bonnie at the minute. Rosenante, who is a green staple blocker. Monet, for some reason. Another zero cost. Maynard, who looks to be seeing play in the upcoming Kuzan leader. Gamma Knife, which is a fairly off and on staple purple tech at the minute. It's really, if you want to deal with 8-cost kid decks, you can slot this into your purple Luffy, into your purple black. So nice to see a little reprint of him. Rebecca, I was surprised this didn't get hit in PRB01. She was much more popular back then, but she's still a very good card in all your black decks, mainly Lucci. The Holy Land Marie-Joise is a very odd one, and this got a really nice looking alt art as well. This really makes me feel the rumoured Emu leader coming out of OP13 seems likely to be playing around the Celestial Dragons package, which is kind of interesting, because those cards have been garbage ever since they came out. And Godatsu was a lot better like a year ago. You used to see him a lot in a Nell. You don't see him so much anymore. Even Calgara, who runs a Sky Island package, doesn't tend to run Godatsu. But I guess he's here. And there was also nothing really in set 5 that I really think needed a reprint. Up to set 6, most of the cards that would potentially need a reprint did get that reprint in PRB01. Once we get to set 7, you'll start seeing maybe a couple more cards that have missed out. And set 6, there's quite a lot from set 6 actually. We've got the big Pop Shanks, who is good in World Shanks. And we've got a few Navy cards. Gion looks to start seeing more play in Kuzan when that leader comes out. Pudding, a blue staple. Very unsurprising to see this get a reprint. But what is surprising is the 5/7 Vanilla Sengoku and Murakumo Sword. So, I mean, the Sengoku needs no explanation, but Murakumo sees no play since Sakazuki was banned, and also got reprinted in PRB1. So I really don't understand why this has been reprinted, but I guess it has. Quite a strange one. Raging Tiger, very much not strange. This has been a blue staple tech since it came out. You see this all over the place. Currently, it sees play in blue-purple Luffy, blue-yellow Nami, all sorts of decks really, and in the upcoming Kuzan deck. White Snake is a Nami card, but is a staple 4 of Nami card. So a reprint for all the Nami players. Maybe this one will get a nice alt art for them. They've continued to reprint all the Germa cards. They've hit most of them in PRB01. They didn't need a reprint then. They've hit Sora and the Searcher event now. And these don't need a reprint now. But hey, we've got them. Shiki and Kamazo are decent reprints, I guess. Kamazo is sort of an off and on play in purple Straw Hat decks, because you can search it off when you're at sea, and it's got a decent stat line with an okay effect. Shiki is perpetually a card that I feel like should be better, but it never ends up making the cut. However, if we get a better purple film leader in the future, this could be kind of cool. Kazuki Momonosuke, this has started seeing a lot more play very, very recently in Yamato with those starter decks. This is fairly staple in that deck. It's not expensive, but a reprint wouldn't go amiss. There's the yellow 0 cost. This, I believe, is the second most expensive one after the purple one right now. And both the secret rares from this set have been reprinted. Green Zoro, always an off and on card. I believe it's more on than off at the moment in Bonnie decks. Sanji, you know what he does. He wins the game for blue-purple Luffy. Pretty good card, and really nice to see both of these getting reprinted, because they're both somewhat expensive, and both really meta-relevant. Now, a couple of cards that were not reprinted from this set that very well could have been Hiyori and Hody. Both of these were reprinted in PRB01, but that didn't stop them reprinting Amano Murakumo's sword again. So that's clearly not like a deal breaker. And at that point, I'm a little surprised, especially with Hody, not to see him. He's up to $11, despite having had a reprint. That's kind of crazy to me. This card is so good in pretty much every green deck. However, with Deadman's Game on the horizon, his price may well drop down a bit, as some green decks will opt for the Deadman's Game instead of the Hody, especially those that can play the Perona Searcher, because your Deadman's Game is searchable off of that. Hiyori sees play in Yamato and also in blue-yellow Nami. Neither of those decks the most meta-relevant, but both decent options for sure. And Hiyori already reaching up to $5 again, despite that reprint in PRB01. So we could have seen a reprint of these, but we didn't. So make sure you get your Hodies sooner than later, if you're planning on still running them once Deadman's Game comes out. Set 7 has some really brilliant reprints and also some really questionable ones. Moda is a card that's in 0 play. The same with Dragon's Breath, this event here. Don't really know why they've hit these. Maybe this is in anticipation of a new Revolutionary Army leader or Ace leader in OP13. we do believe we're getting a Sabo and an Ace. Who knows? Dragon's a great one. This is a red staple. You see this in mainly Shanks recently, but you've also seen this sometimes in Betty, sometimes in Zorro, and in other less popular red decks as well. Quite a few green supernovas: Arouge, Barto, Hawkins, and Bonnie. Arouge and Barto have just had a reprint in the Bonnie deck, so we really didn't need a reprint of these. Hawkins and Bonnie, a little bit more justified. Hawkins doesn't see barely any play anymore. He was very popular back when Lucci was ruling the roost, but now that Lucci's kind of fell off, you don't see a lot of Hawkins gameplay anymore. Bonnie is not very popular in Bonnie, but he's quite popular in green-yellow lore. However, with the new Slash package coming out in set 12, that does look like it will potentially change. A couple of blue cards, we've got the 4-cost Croc. You don't see this guy very much anymore. He was more of a Doflamingo type card. Well, that deck fell off. Slave Arrow is like probably a bad tech in Nami, but a tech in Nami nonetheless. 6-cost Sanji is another one of the brilliant ones. You see this card in pretty much every purple Straw Hat deck. Purple, black purple, blue purple, green purple. This guy's the guy. It's the best purple 2K for Straw Hat outside of Uzohachi, and this has reached up to like $8 in the past. Sitting a little bit below that now, but a brilliant reprint nonetheless. Nora Nora Beamsword is a tech event that you see sort of pop up here and there. Most recently, we saw it in the Don Quixote build of Blue Purple Luffy. So, I mean, it's not an expensive card, but it's a card that you might want more copies of. Egghead Luffy does not see very much play anymore. This used to be very popular in Enel and also in Vegapunk. However, we are getting a new Egghead-themed Luffy leader coming in a few months now. So if that leader is as we all assume it is going to be yellow, this Luffy and also the Frankie and the Searcher event could well be cards that you might need to get your hands on. We've also got reprints of both of the secret rares. Sabo has not seen very much play for a while. However, we do have Koala coming, and it is an option in that. Ace is just your generic yellow top end. It used to be very popular in Enel especially. More recently, Enel has sort of transitioned towards the 10-cost Enel. But this Ace is still a reasonable card, and if Blue Yellow Ace ever comes back, maybe we'll see this as a searchable Ace and Whitebeard Pirates target. And for this set, there was really nothing that I thought needed a reprint that didn't. I think the two biggest ones by far are the Dragon and the Sanji, as well as the Ace potentially. Next up, set 8, and there's not much in set 8, honestly, that got reprinted. Carrot is a really good hit. You see this all the time in Bonnie. You sometimes see this in other green decks, but mostly Bonnie. Purple Pudding, it's a Katakuri type card. You also occasionally see this in Black Purple Luffy, which is interesting. Black Maria is basically only seen playing Black Purple Luffy. However, it is a 4-of in that, and this card has great potential for the future. Obviously, any Animal Kingdom Pirates leader is very likely to play this, but any leader with like a big Don minus effect that they rely on will very much look towards Black Maria as a good option. It's to die for. No idea. This is an uncommon. It's got no value. It's not even seeing that much play at the minute. Most of the Blue Purple Luffy lists have moved away from this in favour of Godthread. Hey, I guess. It's also got really horrific artwork. Like, this is terrible. 4-cost Apu boggles the mind. Calgara is a fine card, I guess. It's a staple part of Calgara, but it's also a vanilla with no value. And Rayleigh is one of the cards that people were really hoping for. And it was confirmed a while back now. But here's confirmation again that Rayleigh will be getting reprinted. So if you're hoping to play Shanks for a little bit cheaper, this is a great one to wait on. Also very popular in Marco. And from set 8, there were a couple of cards that I was a little bit surprised didn't get reprinted. Big Mom especially. Like, this is supposed to be a set about reprinting all of the best cards. And this is without a doubt one of the best cards. Of course, very popular in Blue Purple Luffy, but it's also been fairly popular in Purple Luffy and other purple decks as well. So I was quite surprised to not see this one get reprinted. Egghead Nami has been a lot more expensive back when Enel and Vegapunk were much more popular. Now, it's not seeing a lot of play anymore, but with that Egghead Luffy leader on the horizon, you never know, this could shoot up again. Next up, moving on to set 9, and there are a lot of set 9 cards, so we're going to blitz through them. We've got all these Red Hair Pirates cards that mainly just see play in Shanks. The 10 cost you sometimes see in decks like Red Purple Luffy, and Ben Beckman and Rayleigh are a little bit more flexible, as well as Lime Chews just being a fine 2k. None of these are very expensive, but hey, they're not bad cards to reprint. Robin and Sabo, I have no idea why these got reprinted. The Robin doesn't even see play in Lim, and the Sabo is not an expensive card, but here we are. Crocodile and Mihawk are really good reprints, because whilst they're not very expensive, there's going to have been a massive influx of buggy players recently, so giving them a chance to pull these themselves or get them for a little bit cheaper is no bad thing. Cross Guild was just reprinted in the buggy starter deck along with Mr. 3, so these really did not need a reprint. Moving on to the purple and black cards, we've got Sanji. He's pretty popular in Black Purple Luffy especially, but you also sometimes see it in Mono Purple Luffy. The 3-cost Zoro is only popular in Black Purple, and this has just had a reprint. Law is a brilliant reprint, because this did not get reprinted in the Purple Black Luffy starter deck, which I think a lot of people really expected it to, but not being a Straw Hat, they didn't want to put it in the deck. It is what it is. This is staple in Purple and in Black Purple. Frankie is a bit of an option in Black Purple. It's there more than it isn't, and it's not an expensive card. But hey, I'll take more copies. Giant as well. This just got reprinted in the starter deck, along with Lightning. We've also reprinted Jump Rope for some reason. This one's terrible. Jump Rope's not a good card. Giant and Lightning, though, both, well, Giant's insane. Lightning's just decent. And we also got a bunch of Blackbeard reprints. None of these seem super necessary in my opinion. This Is My Age and the 10-cost Teach are both relevant cards for Blackbeard that were not in the starter deck. So reprints of those are fine, but it's really nothing to write home about. And there's only one card from set 9 that I thought would be reprinted, and it is Purple Luffy. He's not the most expensive for a secret rare, right? Just under $10, around £7.50. But with how sort of common you see this, it's like a 1 or 2 of in Blue Purple, it's a staple in Purple, it's very much an option in Black Purple. I thought we would see this get a reprint, just because of how generically good it is. But we didn't, so if you're planning on playing one of these decks that relies on this card, maybe consider getting your copies now. Moving on to set 10, not as many reprints in this set, and most of it's yellow. Going over the other cards, we've got the Chopper and the Kamakura Jisoshi. Chopper, brilliant red staple 2k, sees play in Shanks, sees play in Smoker. Kamakura Jisoshi, mostly just a Smoker card, but I have been seeing some players playing this in Shanks recently, which is somewhat interesting. Toshigi is the best green 2k since Izo. This is in pretty much every green deck that's not relying on another colours 2ks or type-locked 2ks. Kyros we could have probably gone without. I don't think we really needed this. Godthread has become a staple in Blue Purple Luffy, but doesn't see much play outside of that. And Zoro, I think we could have also gone without this. Both this and the Kyros were only seen playing Usopp, and Usopp did not last very long. The yellow Supernova leaders have lasted a little bit longer. Cavendish, Hawkins, and Apu, mostly only seen playing Kid. However, they are all, well, maybe not Cavendish, but the other two are very good cards in Kid, so a reprint's pretty cool. And this Hawkins does have a really nice altar, actually. 8-cost Kid is a much more generic yellow top end. You see this not only in Kid, but also in Enel, also in Blue Yellow Nami. So this one getting a reprint, definitely no bad thing. He does command a couple of dollars of value. X-Drake, it's fine, it's a 2k. You see it in Law, you see it in Kid, you see it in Enel. It's just a good generic 2k, and the 7-cost Law is a staple in GY Law, which is one of the better decks this format for sure, as well as being a great option in Kid. So definitely the better of the two secrets to reprint from this set. The Black Luffy, nobody's missing him. And here's a couple of cards that they did potentially miss from set 10. Neither of these that urgent, but these are both looking like they might rise a little bit in usage in the next set. Sanji, very, very good in Rayleigh. I'm currently not seeing much play at all at the minute. The premier red decks in set 11 are Betty and Zoro. Betty's obviously Rev Army, and Zoro's not really playing a Straw Hat build at the moment, he's just playing choppers. You see this in RG Smoker, but he's not that popular a deck. The Green Smoker looks to be getting better with that Slash engine, giving more decks searchable access to this, and decks that already wanted to play it are going to play even more. Also looks to be at least a 2 of in most builds of the new Green Zoro leader. Now, and that is the most recent set that's getting reprints. There are no reprints from set 11, as expected. However, we have got a bunch of promos. We're going to run through these very quickly. This Sabo sees no play. The Jinbei is a nice 2k4 Jinbei. This Sanji was good in Reiju, and now we just have better Germa 2ks, so there you go. Carrot is an option for Carrot. Koala's a nice one, actually. This just is like the STO1 Nami, but for Rev Army. So if you're planning on playing like a Betty deck or a Dragon deck, this is a reasonable option, and was promo locked before. Shanks sees no play. This Sabo is new out, and he's very, very popular in Betty. So this one, especially getting a reprint, is going to be mega. And one small thing with these three, these are not the arts that are going to be included in the set. I didn't have the arts downloaded, and I wanted to include the English version so people can pause and zoom in and read if they want. So these are the these are the arts just from the base version of the sim, but there are going to be slightly different artworks in this set. Lim sees no play. RDO is a somewhat popular 2k in Lim, but nobody's really playing Lim at the minute. This Bonnie hasn't even come out in the West, so I don't really know how popular this is going to be. The lore, though, this one hasn't come out in the West either, but we really know how popular this is. This is really good in lore, it's pretty good in Kid, and it's also going to be pretty good in the upcoming Rosnante deck. So this being reprinted, definitely a good choice. Crocodile and Mihawk, you don't see much play of either of these. These are out in the West now, but Buggy is mostly just choosing to forgo them, which is a real shame, because he'd have loved these like a set or two ago. There are no real promos that I think needed a reprint that they've whiffed on. The main one was probably the Sabo. All these others are mostly superfluous. We did get a nice few starter deck reprints, though, from the original first few starter decks. Brook from STO1 doesn't see a lot of play anymore. Bonnie, very good in Bonnie, very good in GY lore. This one has been crying out for a reprint for a while. Not an expensive card in any way, but for a common from a starter deck to command like $2-3 worth of value, that's a little sad. Hina is another one. Hina has been popular in black decks forever, and has not had a reprint outside of the premium file alt art. So this finally getting an actual reprint is mega. This should have been in PRB1 though. Jinbei and Shachi and Penguin are very odd. Jinbei, I don't think has ever seen play. And Shachi Penguin hasn't seen play since RP Lore got banned, outside of just being a slightly more searchable 2k off your lore searcher. Perona and Parage Shot defy explanation even more. Vanilla Perona, why? And this event, I've never seen anyone play this. Moving on, Subdeck 13 has had a few reprints, none of the SRs, and the SRs all could have been hit. But I believe you can still get your hands on this, at least at the Bandai official stores, this deck. So none of them have that crazy a value. However, we did get a reprint of the Newgate, who doesn't see any play. All the brothers, who are popular in, obviously, the brothers leaders. And with OP13 coming out real soon, focused around the brothers, maybe these will get new leaders to go in. The brothers bond as well as a search event is fine. I would have rather seen the Garp though, because he's just better, right? ST14, bizarrely, has had a bunch of reprints of cards that see no play. Robin is a niche tech in ST14 Luffy, and these other four, I have my crew in BY Luffy before the Moria ban. These other cards are terrible though. This is a really odd page in general, honestly. I don't think any of these cards needed a reprint, but we're getting them, so here we are. From the previous wave of 6 starter decks, we're also getting the Newgate, who is fairly popular in Marco and sometimes in Shanks. Katakuri and Luffy, who don't see any play. Shanks is really good in Bonnie, so getting a reprint of that one is pretty nice though. And then from the blue deck, we've got the Buggy, we've got the Teach, and we've got the Lore. These were all very popular in Dofi. However, Dofi is not very popular anymore. You do still see the Teach in Blue Yellow Nami, but outside of that, these cards are not doing a lot at the minute. And then moving on to the final 6 cards, Usahachi is one of the biggest hits of the set, for sure. This was like nearly $10 at one point, which for a common from a starter deck, that's diabolical. That was a really crazy price, and I'm glad this guy's getting a reprint. Onami and Sangoro didn't really need one, but they're pretty good cards. Same with Sengoku and Brule. These cards really didn't need a reprint. And honestly, same with Sanji. I'm a little surprised this one wasn't Molgun. So Molgun I don't think needed a reprint. That deck is still fairly available. These These bottom three just aren't seeing a lot of play at the minute. Sanji sometimes in Straw Hat decks. And the few cards that from the Star decks that were not reprinted. From STO3, the Doflamingo is rising in popularity in Buggy. This being able to bounce the Beer Luffy with the buff and also Sanji Pudding is relevant into both of those matchups, and does command like a $3, £3 price tag. And Love Beam, people were kind of surprised this didn't get hit in PRB01. It's still not been hit in PRB02. And this has actually started to see a little bit more play now in Buggy. Previously, this was really only a Nami card, but Buggy players have started to play 1 or 2 copies of these sometimes. So I'm extra surprised it didn't get reprinted. And this is $7, which is a real shame for a common. And the last 2 cards that I think are notable that have not been reprinted. The Mihawk, he doesn't see a ton of play right now, but he still commands a price of like $8 or £6. And looking ahead to Zoro, maybe you'll see him in that. And he was very, very instrumental in the Zonji deck that we saw get 2nd place at the CS last weekend. So a Mihawk reprint could have gone hard, but here we are. And also with all those ST14 reprints, it made me wonder why this Sanji wasn't. He's not the most popular, but you do still see him sometimes in Purple Black Luffy. And Black Luffy for people like me who like coping on that deck. But he's about $5. It's most of the value of that starter deck is this card. But if they were going to reprint all the vanillas, why not reprint this guy, right? It is what it is. So that's it for the video. Are you hyped for PRB02? I know I am. Some of these extra reprints that got leaked today, cards like Hina, Black Maria, it's pretty exciting, I'm not going to lie, and I think they've done a really good job of hitting the vast majority of the expensive cards that could have done with a reprint. Like I say, there are 1 or 2 notable exceptions. That Chopper, probably the biggest one of the bunch, but on the whole, I think they've done an even better job than they did with PRB01, and I'm really excited to get to cracking in this set. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have a lovely rest of your day.